Today, we're uncovering some shocking truths about factory farming that you need to know. Because believe me, if the factory farming industry had its way, this would be one of those documentaries you'd stumble across at 3 a.m. while wearing your sleep mask upside down. But what they don't want you to know is often the most important thing to find out. And trust me, once you know what really goes into that chicken nugget or that glass of milk, you're going to want to keep watching. So buckle up, because things are about to get real. Think about the last time you saw a heartwarming photo of a cow and her calf cuddling together on a farm. Turns out that idyllic scene is about as realistic as a unicorn tea party. You see, in the dairy industry, those adorable calves are often torn away from their mothers just hours after birth. And for the male calves, well, they're basically seen as byproducts, like an unwanted receipt printed on thermal paper.
Why? Because only female cows produce milk, and those male calves aren't economically viable for the dairy industry. So they're often sold off to become veal. That's right, veal isn't some fancy exotic meat. It's just a baby cow who never got to see their first birthday.
And for the female calves, they're often destined for a life just as grim as their mothers, trapped in a cycle of forced impregnation and constant milk production. It's a system designed for profit, and these animals are treated as nothing more than milk-producing machines. So, the next time you're at the grocery store, remember this. That carton of milk represents a lot more than just a refreshing beverage. It represents a system of cruelty and exploitation that thrives in the shadows. Imagine spending your entire life in a space so cramped you can barely move. No, I'm not talking about a budget airline seat, although that's a pretty close second. I'm talking about the horrific reality for millions of chickens raised for their eggs. These birds are often crammed into battery cages, so small they can't even spread their wings. We're talking about an area smaller than a sheet of paper for a living, breathing animal. It's enough to make even the most claustrophobia-resistant person break out in a cold sweat. And it gets worse. Because of the cramped, filthy conditions, these birds are highly susceptible to diseases and injuries. Broken bones, infections, and even psychological distress are all common. And remember, these are living, feeling creatures capable of experiencing pain and suffering just like you and me. But hey, at least we get cheap eggs, right? Because apparently that's a fair trade-off for condemning millions of animals to a life of misery. Here's a fun fact that'll make you lose your lunch. The chickens we eat today grow so fast their bodies can barely keep up. We're talking Frankenstein levels of unnatural growth, all in the name of cheap meat. Dr. Schmidt, you see, chickens have been selectively bred to grow at an alarming rate, reaching slaughter weight in a fraction of the time it took just a few decades ago. And while that might sound like a win for efficiency, it's a nightmare for the birds. This rapid growth puts an enormous strain on their organs, bones and hearts, leading to a whole host of health problems. Many chickens can't even stand up under their own weight, spending their short lives in chronic pain. Dr. Schmidt, so that juicy chicken breast you're about to eat? It's a testament to our insatiable appetite for cheap meat, and the suffering we inflict on these animals is the hidden cost. Imagine being castrated without any pain relief. Sounds like a medieval torture technique, right? Well, welcome to the wonderful world of pig farming, where this is a routine practice. Maria piglets, just days old, are subjected to this agonizing procedure, all to prevent something called boar taint, which is apparently a thing people with functioning taste buds can detect. But hey, who needs a little thing like compassion when there's money to be made, right? And the horrors don't stop there. Pigs are highly intelligent, social animals, but on factory farms they're treated as nothing more than meat-producing units. Maria, they're confined to cramped, barren cages, often driven to madness from boredom and stress. It's a bleak existence, and one that's easy to ignore when you're pushing that shopping cart down the grocery aisle. But the next time you see a package of bacon, remember the price these animals pay for our insatiable appetite for pork. Sure, those rolling pastures filled with grazing cattle might look idyllic, But the reality of beef production is anything but. Because while those cows might have a bit more space to roam than their chicken and pig counterparts, their impact on the environment is devastating. Carlos, we're talking about deforestation on a massive scale, particularly in the Amazon rainforest to make way for cattle ranching. And as those trees disappear, so too does the planet's ability to absorb carbon dioxide, contributing to climate change. Carlos, but hey, at least we get our cheap hamburgers, right? Because apparently a little thing like the future of the planet is no match for our insatiable desire for red meat. Carlos, so the next time you're grilling up a steak, take a moment to think about the true cost of your meal. It might just make you lose your appetite. Look, I get it. No one wants to think about the suffering behind their food. It's uncomfortable, it's upsetting, and frankly, it's enough to ruin a perfectly good meal. Claire, but the uncomfortable truth is, we can't keep turning a blind eye to the horrors of factory farming. It's time to rethink our food choices and consider the impact they have on animals and the environment. We have the power to make a difference, one meal at a time. By reducing our consumption of animal products, supporting sustainable and humane farming practices and demanding better from the food industry, we can create a more just and compassionate food system. Claire, stay informed, make conscious choices, and together, let's create a world where animals are treated with respect and our planet is protected for generations to come.